So we ended up, it was over 100 million.
Wow.
But it was all cash. Most of the tech scene is tech bros making stuff for tech bros, to be honest. And that's fine. I'm a tech bro, right? But why are you making stuff for startups, broke startups that are money-losing venture-backed companies? Why are you making tools for those companies? You got these massive multi-billion-dollar industrial companies.
Some new developments here. Utah family in mourning the death of a wife and a mother.
My wife and I were going to a wedding in Mexico, and a horrifying accident. Our driver was killed, and Elise was burned very badly. And we ended up life flighting her back all the way to Utah.
From Mexico.
From Mexico, and but it was horrible, and she died a few days later.
Oh man.
Don't lose sight of what's really important. What's the point of this? The point of it isn't the business. The point of it isn't that. The point of even the money, it's to use it to enrich your life.
Right.
One of the key messages of it that really resonates now is don't wait.
Yeah.
You know, there's this tendency of like, I'll do this later. I'm busy now, but I'll do it later. I'll do it when the kids are older. I'll do it at some other time. It doesn't get easier when the kids are older. It gets harder. They're really busy. And also, life is short. And like I've been saying lately, and sometimes it's really effing short. When I found out that she wasn't going to make it, I took the kids and I had to tell them. And I said, you know what? We're going to be okay. And I remember thinking, I don't even know what that means. What do you mean, okay? How is anything ever going to be okay, ever? But I meant it. And the truth is, we're okay.
Hello and welcome back to the Startup Ignition podcast. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you've been watching and following along, we just talked about pre-recording that people are watching every episode and going back and watching them again, which we find very intriguing.
Fascinating. Yeah.
Fascinating is the right word.
But we do have great guests.
Yes, we do. But today, we are super excited for this episode today because today in studio, live in person, we have Dan Caffee, who has gone way back with my dad. I know I've met you a handful of years ago and we've had multiple conversations. So welcome, Dan, to the podcast.
Thanks. I'm happy to be here.
Yeah. And I'm so excited to have Dan here and hear about your journey. You've got a lot going on. I know you've had quite the seasoned entrepreneurial journey, investor, entrepreneur, and all the things that have happened to you more recently. I'm just so intrigued to talk to you and have a conversation with you. But before that, I have a bio for Dan, and Dan, I'm not going to lie, I tasked AI to write this bio for you, so hopefully it's correct. So before we jump in, let me give the listeners a quick bio on you so they know how cool Dan is. So Dan Caffee is the founder and CEO of Voze, a Utah-based startup that is revolutionizing how field sales teams in heavy industries work. He's no stranger to startups, though, because I went all the way back here, and I know that you guys talked about even going back all the way to the Entice Labs days where you guys initially met, which was interesting. But you also were the co-founder of Teem, which was a very infamous startup here back in the 2016 to 2018 era. When I was building my startup, I heard about you guys all the time. You sold that to WeWork back in 2018. After that successful exit, you went on to do a bunch of other things, which led into Voze, where you're at today. I know that you're a pretty prominent investor, angel investor, getting involved in very early stage with a bunch of different entrepreneurs in a bunch of different categories. And I know that Voze just raised a decent amount of money. I read 12 million. Is that?
Yeah, it was 12. Yeah,
$12 million in a Series A funding round, bringing total funding to around that much, or
total is probably
15,
16 now total. Yeah.
15 million. So basically Dan is the Swiss Army knife. He has done it all, from bootstrapping a startup to scaling it, to selling it, to negotiating it. And now doing it all over again and also investing. So thank you so much. And thank you for coming on the podcast. We're super excited to have Dan.
How lucky are we?
Very lucky. So yeah, that's quite the bio. So, before we get into the podcast though, Dan, I don't know if you've ever watched one of our podcasts. We are on episode 43, which seems like a lot, but we always do an icebreaker. So I like to spring something on our guests and my dad at the same time, and we do something just super fun.
Let's do it.
And do something to relax and just get into this mood of podcasting. So today I'm going to do a icebreaker called Founders Firsts. So I'm going to ask you about a couple of memories or things that come and pop up in your head about the first time you experienced something. Okay. Do you have a memory, Dan, of your very first pitch?
Oh, absolutely.
Well, how'd it go?
Oh, we got some funding, but it was the worst pitch I've ever been in or seen.
What was the startup?
It was for Teem. So we had spun it out of our main company. We went to go pitch Greg at Mercado because he was the only VC that we knew. We'd never raised money. And we had like a 40-page deck. And Greg was kind of dozing off. It was the longest pitch. It was so bad. He'd never done it before. I didn't know.
Yeah.
And finally we got to the very, very end. And he's like, he was like, okay, that piece was good. Cut the rest of it. And yeah, we'll fund it. But it was very, very
It was
bad.
just
Lengthy, boring. We included every possible thing that maybe we could even think of. Yeah, it was.
So you bombed it, but you got the funding.
It's because we were already LPs. We were already friends with them. So it was kind of like we would have been better off if we didn't pitch and just asked him for money probably on that one.
Yeah, I just texted him like.
The pitch made it worse. Yeah.
Yeah. How about you, Dad? Do you remember?
Yep. So I bootstrapped the first company, which was print Yellow Pages. But then when we did internet Yellow Pages, had to pitch that. And I got kind of trained by a venture capitalist who was helping us. And there's a whole long story there. But I'm a terrible salesman. And you say that about me a lot of times. If I don't believe in something or whatever, I can't like fake it. You know, like my wife says, I'm the worst liar in the world. But when I really believe in something and know it, I just naturally, organically can sell it okay. And since I was going from print Yellow Pages, launching the first ever internet Yellow Pages, I was able to pitch with such conviction and such knowledge of the industry that it went okay, even though it was probably a terrible pitch from what we would standardized today. But because of founder market fit, which is a principle we really believe in, we like founders who have great market fit. I had founder market fit. So I made it through because they could tell I knew what I was talking about, even though venture-wise, I probably did a terrible job.
Yeah. I think that comes through a lot of times in a pitch is the VC or the investor that you're pitching to, they can tell how passionate and how much you actually believe in it, right? So that comes
like
across. So if you're just trying to get a quick dollar, it definitely communicates.
You
right?
and I took a pitch yesterday where the super founder fit, they found an incredible problem, but on the venture side, their round size, their valuation, their plan for how they're going to spend the money, that all needed fixing.
Yeah, that's a whole nother topic.
Yeah. If you have a founder who's good at the early stage, especially, that's really what you're looking for. Most of the other stuff's going to end up changing by the time they really get going.
Yeah.
So if you got a passionate founder who's really going to stick with it and they seem to know what they're doing, that's all they're really trying to figure out.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Okay, here we go. Another founder first. You ready? I wanted to switch it and say, what's the worst pitch you've ever heard? Not that you've given, but we'll save that for another time.
Oh, I got that.
I know you do. Okay. What was your first kind of like, oh crap moment in your entrepreneurial career where you're just like, this is hitting the wall, crap is hitting the fan, and it's over?
I mean, the very first one, it was a company, and Sean Ritchie and I had started in the trucking industry, and our customer, our first biggest customer was Swift Transportation, the biggest trucking company in the country. And they were the vast majority of our small amount of revenue, but we were not even a blip on their radar. And so we didn't have any funding or anything. So we needed to get paid or we couldn't make payroll. And payroll was coming up on like Friday and it was Wednesday and we hadn't gotten the check yet. And I was like, and Sean was the CFO. I'm like, you need to just fly out there and find the lady who's in charge of payroll. And so we didn't have any money. So he flew out on the cheapest flight, had his mom pick him up at the airport in Phoenix, drive him over there and pick up flowers or something to take to Phyllis or whoever this lady is and come back with a check because we got like 2 days away and we're like, we don't have any other alternative. If we don't get this money right now, we don't have a business. We're toast.
Yeah.
And that was one of those where I'm like, I should have just gotten a real job. What am I doing? This is crazy. But it ended up working out. And that actually happened a couple of times with that business.
Or payroll was hard to meet. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Where you're like 48 hours away from
running
bankruptcy.
Yeah.
One time I had the proverbial, my bank bounced our payroll checks. We had the money. They just made an error, bounced all of our payroll checks. the president of the bank wrote a letter to our employees and it was their mistake, everything, but still we lost 4 people that said they didn't believe it. They thought something was wrong with the company.
They left?
I mean, yeah. I mean, you bounce payroll check.
Well, and these are startups. They're not getting paid that much anyway.
Yeah,
I'm not even getting that amount.
Well,
Like,
yeah.
I'm outta here.
I mean, we did 4 people and they were good people we could not save. It's just they didn't believe it.
Okay, let's flip this founder first. What's the first time you got maybe not just a success overall, but like maybe like your first sale where you were just like, dude, this is clicking. This is going really good.
I'll tell you when it was really interesting. Maybe not the very, very first, but with Teem.
But yeah, just most memorable one. So Teem,
A really interesting one. So Teem, when we first started, it was just kind of a spin out of our main company. And it was just kind of a skunkworks to build some fun stuff. And the first thing that we built was what became Eventboard, became Teem. And we just put it out on the App Store. It was free and just to see. And my brother-in-law was doing sales for a tech company out in the Bay Area. And he called me and he was like, I'm sitting in like the waiting room here at Twitter and they're using your thing. I'm like, the calendar thing? What do you mean? Like Twitter? Yeah. I called Zach, my co-founder. I'm like, my brother-in-law says they're using our thing at Twitter. And we didn't have any way of tracking it. And we started finding out like, yeah, people were really downloading this and using it. We had no idea. We were just screwing around for fun, just to have fun. And it was just one of those things like, those are like real companies using our stupid thing that we.
How did you not know that Twitter was a user?
There was no subscription service yet. So it was more like anybody could download it for free. We didn't know. And he happened to just see it. They were using it there. And it was kind of a validation of like, oh, maybe we have something here.
Yeah.
You know? And it was a very cool experience. And Zach, my co-founder, Zach Holmquist, loved Twitter. You know, he was one of the earliest users.
Fanboying.
Yeah. So he was like, you know, we couldn't believe it. And then slowly we start finding out these other kind of big name companies were using this stupid side project thing that we'd made. And we realized it was time to actually probably turn it into something real. And so
That's cool.
That was really just seeing that put us over the edge.
Yeah. So like one of the aha moments, like, oh my gosh, we got a real thing here.
Yeah. Like we made it as kind of a joke and it turned into a real company because of some of those moments.
Yeah. How about you?
Well, a memorable sales moment is when, with back to the InfoSpace days and selling internet Yellow Pages in an enterprise way, we were one of the leaders in doing that. But we were doing small publishing partners, so companies that would do deals that were $5,000 a month or $2,000 a month or something. And then all of a sudden, we got on the radar screen of all the Baby Bell companies, which means the Ma Bell breakup companies. And so we did a deal with US West and Ameritech deals with them. And so how much are we going to charge them? And we settled on $200,000 a month, and they bought it.
Oh my gosh!
I got tingles just thinking about it.
That's in like 1998, 99.
Yeah.
$200,000 a month deal.
That's insane.
And I just go, what? Because
that shows you that
my previous life was small potato pennies, and I'm going, what the heck is going on?
But that tells you that no one knew what the internet was doing or the capabilities. It was like 200,000. That's a steal. Let's do it. Yeah.
I mean, it was, and doing a deal like that and write up the contract. I'm actually helping our attorney draw up a contract of $200,000 a month. That's pretty something.
That's a fun feeling.
Yeah.
Okay. Last one, and then we'll move on. Okay. How about like the first major mistake that you were like, I am never going to do that again? Like, what was the first memorable mistake you ever made?
I have one that comes to mind, and it it haunted me for years, and it still kind of does.
Yeah,
actually.
these things do haunt you.
So it was 2008, and I don't know if you remember 2008, but the entire world economy was collapsing. Lehman Brothers went out of business.
Yep.
He was just starting college career, but the rest of us remember it.
Very scary time for everybody.
Yeah.
And I'm looking at this. Dick Fuld, who was the CEO, is the gorilla of Wall Street. He couldn't keep Lehman Brothers in business. And I'm supposed to keep my crappy startup in business somehow. I don't even know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
And, we lost a biggest customer. We didn't have a lot of customers with this company. And we had a guy that worked for us who was a great guy. He'd been a real help, to us as we were getting things going. And we were running out of money. And I waited and waited. I didn't want to make any cuts. I waited, and then I kept waiting, and I waited a little longer. I thought I could push it. We're going to figure it out. And I waited too long.
Yep. That's a common thing.
Because he's
We saw that in 22 and 23. So many
he's
companies.
a friend.
That's happening in our portfolio companies all the time, left and right. It's a very common mistake.
It's a scary thing to deal with, especially I was young, I was not even 30. and this guy was our friend, and so I realized finally I have to go do this, and I was sick the night before. And
you had to terminate a friend?
Yeah, and his wife was 6 months pregnant.
Oh, gosh.
And this guy had helped us. I mean, he had helped put the floors into our office downtown in the Sweet Candy Building.
Yeah,
he was a key guy, and I said we've got to let you go, and he kind of laughed. I think he thought we were joking. I'm like,
no, like seriously.
I wish.
Yeah.
We didn't have any money to pay a severance because I'd waited way too long. And I said, you can keep your laptop. You could like pawn it or something, and we'll pay for the insurance, until the baby's born, which I had no idea how we were actually going to do that. We didn't really have the money to do that, but we committed to doing that. And it was just one of those experiences where your gut is just like, oh man.
Yeah.
Because the truth is, if it's something like that, it's not his fault. It was my fault. I was the CEO.
Yeah.
And it was my fault that we got to that point. And I think what I learned from that was, if you need to make that move, make it sooner rather than later.
Yeah.
And it's much easier to do when you can pay a severance and you can smooth things over and give them something. And when you can't, it's an awful feeling, and it should be an awful feeling.
Yeah. Tyler has told a story on this podcast before that he had to do that to somebody who was a good friend of his. And Tyler mentioned Tyler cried about it.
Yeah, I cried.
I absolutely cried.
And then after that, he didn't have a car to drive home. So I gave him a ride home for 20 minutes in my car. It was pretty bad.
I should add to this though, because this is a really interesting part of the story. This haunted me.
And that guy's a nice guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was really worried, and I thought, I'm ruining this guy's life, and I can't, what have I done, and this whole thing. Well, within like 2 weeks, he had gotten a job paying more than I was making for one of our customers in Virginia Beach. So he was living at the beach, and I was still stuck in Utah with my crappy company that was dying, and he was making more than I was.
Yeah, so he moved
So
on.
I was thinking, I was fretting over it, and I was so upset.
You freed him.
Honestly, I was so upset. And in reality, it worked out very well for him.
Yeah.
And here, the other moral of the story is, it worked out well for us. We were on track to be out of business. This was February. We were on track to be out of business by May. And that year, by the end of the year, we ended up tripling our biggest year of revenue, and we're on our way to be on the Inc. 500 for the first time.
Yeah.
And had we not made that move, we would have been toast. And so it worked out amazing for me, for the company, and for him.
Yeah.
But that lesson stuck with me, even knowing how it turned out. And I think it's a blessing when you have that sour feeling in your gut, which is, remember what it feels like and don't push it that far, so you end up having to.
Yeah, I think the learning lesson is for all the viewers and listeners is, if you have that inkling, if you feel that way, like sooner than later, just cut it, rip the Band-Aid off.
Yep.
Yeah.
And it's just, this is one of the cool stories related to that. We've told it once before, I think, when we had John Pastana, co-founder of Omniture, on. So Omniture is a legendary company here in Utah, sold to Adobe for a couple billion, and it's why Adobe's got such a major presence here. But in their history, they had to lay off about 40% of their entire team 1 week before Christmas, no severance.
Yeah.
And that was awful. But years later, when they had made it big, they went back and paid all those people 1 year severance. Can you believe that?
I love John.
I mean,
That's
I mean, Josh and John, they looked out for their investors and they looked out for their employees. And I witnessed that firsthand. Yeah.
And the thing is, we'll talk about this, but this industry, this game that we're in, it's a long game.
Yeah.
And the relationships really matter. And I think there are times where there's stuff that's unavoidable. But if people know your intentions are good and that you really do have their backs, you're going to come around again. And if they know that you're someone who really cares about them, it will make a difference.
And I do think a lot of entrepreneurs catch a lot of flack, right, for making those hard decisions, like especially during kind of this post 2020, 2021 era where things have gotten really hard, and a lot of layoffs, especially here in our state of Utah, came around the corner. Like, we had massive tech companies, massive brands laying off tons of people left and right, doing multiple rounds of layoffs. And on Reddit or on Quora or on all these forum sites, there was just so much bashing of these CEOs and founders. And I get it from the employee's perspective, like, oh, I just got laid off, and how could they do this to me? But it's like, as a founder and as an entrepreneur, don't be ashamed of doing what's right and best by your company. Mm-hmm. And if that means, laying someone off. Hopefully it's like Dan's scenario where your guy goes on and has a better opportunity anyways, right?
One of my experiences is over my career, some people were really upset with the decisions I made as a CEO, but those people later went on to own their own business. Yeah. Like 5 years later, they come up and talk to me and go, John, I need to apologize to you. I was really harsh on you when you made a decision that led to this and that I completely disagreed with, didn't understand. Now that I've owned a business for a couple of years, I've now caught myself doing the same kind of decisions, and I understand exactly why you did it. So I owe you an apology.
Yeah.
I think one of the great things about a podcast like this is that it gives some context to people, and it's stuff that I didn't have coming up.
Yeah.
And so it would feel often very lonely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, I've always had co-founders in my companies, which is great. So I have a partner there. Fine. Then the two of us are lonely together in this, but we didn't know anybody else who was doing
One of the best networking things you can do is get other CEOs that you meet with for lunch or dinner once a week or once a month. Yeah.
I didn't have it.
Yeah.
I didn't have it. And so it would be Sean and I just kind of in our bubble solving problems that had probably already been solved by lots of people. We just didn't know how. We try and read, Fast Company and read, business books and stuff. But, and I think having this context, it does make it much easier because now people understand what it's like.
Yeah,
You're not the first one who's dealt with
peer-to-peer mentoring with somebody. I always tell people, go find somebody who's about 6 to 18 months ahead of you in their evolution of their business and peer-to-peer mentor with them. Take them to dinner, go to lunch with them, socialize a little with them. They've just spent the last year with all the things you're about to do.
Yeah.
We did have a guy who was, he owned a very large mortgage company here. He's a good friend of ours. And he's about 10 years older than us. And he was about 10 years further along in his career than us. And he was kind of an early investor and partner of ours. And he was a mentor for us. I mean, game changing because he was the only guy that we really knew who'd kind of been through it. And when we'd be stuck, we'd just call him and be like, Dave, what do we do? What do we do here? And he's like, here's what I've done before. Here's 3 people to call.
Yeah.
Here's a person I know. And it was, when you're right on the edge and you're about to lose it.
Yeah.
And he's like,
no, I've seen this before.
This has happened.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's okay.
That's one of the hidden secrets of being successful. There's probably very few entrepreneurs that have been successful that didn't have one of those guys in their life.
Yeah. And I think that's kind of the benefit of our portfolio, with our venture fund.
What we do in our venture fund.
I mean, that's one of the perks of being.
We're super available and helping with soup to nuts, anything that comes up.
Right. It's just, the 30 years of pattern recognition that this guy has and, the small short career that I have too. It's just like, oh, hey, we've seen this before.
Yeah.
Here's how you get from A to B. Here's how you get from B to C. 5 times it's worked. 1 time it hasn't worked. So here's what we suggest you do. Right. So that just experience is a lot.
Very cool.
I think it makes a huge difference. And for people to know you're not alone.
Yeah.
Because it feels like I'm the only person who's ever
felt this way or had gone through this. Yeah.
Hundreds.
You're not
thousands.
the worst CEO in the world.
Yeah.
And if they watch stuff like this, I'm sure, I've already shared a few of my biggest screw ups and I'm sure there'll be more.
Yeah.
So you're like, well, he's pretty successful and he's screwed up tons of times.
Yeah.
That's part of it. So
Yep. Okay. What a great icebreaker.
Yeah,
that was a great conversation. Thank you, Dan. But okay, let's go back to the beginning. Where does Dan get the entrepreneurial bug? When do you kind of set out and say, I know I'm going to start things rather than maybe get a career and job?
Where'd you grow up? Where'd you go to high school? And then where'd you go to college? Yeah.
So I grew up in DC area in Maryland.
Oh,
okay.
And
inside the belt?
Yeah.
Really?
In Maryland. So we grew
Wow.
up in Bethesda and was in the Potomac South Ward and Chevy Chase and then Kensington.
Wow.
So yeah, that area. And my folks still live there. And I never really cared about business at all, actually. My dad was a businessman. He was an entrepreneur. And he and his partner built a big company. They were in the industrial recycling business, which is like a euphemism for junkyards.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Very successful business. I mean, at the height, they were probably doing $250 million a year in sales. It was very big. It's
doing
heavy
what?
industry. It's industrial recycling. So it's, recycling aluminum and it's stainless steel and molybdenum and copper. And I would work there sometimes as a kid. I wasn't very good. They just let me work there because it was my dad, but I'd get yelled at a lot. I was very bad at it. My brother was good at it. I was terrible at it. But you strip copper wire. So I worked as a stripper.
Oh, nice. Hey, there you go. Your claim to fame, Dan Caffee. You heard it here first. He worked as a stripper. Okay.
But so he was an entrepreneur and there were a few periods where he had started a couple of different businesses, but this one he joined a business and became a partner, and he and his partner were they worked together, I think 35 years, maybe.
Yeah.
And then they sold the business a few years ago. His partner died, and I think he didn't really want to do it without his partner. And so they ended up selling it, and it was a great deal. But I saw what it was like, and I learned a lot from my dad and his partner about how to run a business, how to treat employees, the importance of loyalty, the importance of treating people well, and there were some really important lessons. And so that's really where I got it from. Still didn't care that much about it. I was an international law and diplomacy major at BYU, and I wanted to do something like that, be a diplomat, something like that. And but I joined a startup, really, my very first one in college. It was here in Provo, out of a guy's basement, a friend of mine. And I saw an ad. I was doing tech support, making like $14 an hour, which was pretty good back in I came back from my missions. That would have been 99. I was doing all right.
Yeah.
But I wanted something more. And I saw an ad. They used to have a billboard down in the basement of the Wilkinson Center with stuff on it. And it had one that said, "Do it all for a small software company, $7 to $12 an hour." And I was like, I think I want to do that instead. So I went went down to the interview. He said, "You just come around the back and go down the stairs into the basement." So I told my roommates, "So if I don't hear from me, I'm definitely dead. And here's where I went." And I go down there, and it was just this guy. He's actually been on the council. His name's Dave Sewell, and he was
I know Dave. Yeah.
He's a great guy, and he had this company. They were making some software, and I thought, this is less money, but I'm going to learn how to build a business here. It wasn't much of a business. It was just a little product, but he wanted it. His wife gave him one more shot to make a go at trying to build it into a company. And so it's kind of a Hail Mary, and I joined it, and we started building something, and it turned into a much larger company that started doing hardware importing and all this other stuff. And I learned a lot from Dave, and I learned a lot from that experience. And by the end, I was making a lot more money than I was in tech support anyway.
Yeah.
And I did it for about 2 years, and then moved on. And that's when Sean and I started our first company together. Yeah. But that was my first one. And what I realized was, oh, I'm good at this. I'm good at it. And I really kind of like it. And from there, I was always a little bit of a nerd. I know that's a shocker probably to you guys, but so I was into computers and the internet way before anybody else really was in the early 90s. And so I had that experience. And so I was doing internet marketing, web marketing for this thing, which nobody even knew what that was yet. Yeah. And I did really well with it. So then I started doing some consulting with it, and I realized, I think this is probably what I'm going to end up doing for my career. And it has been tech. I've been in tech ever since. Yeah. So that's how I got the bug, and that's how I got into it. And I just tried it, and it's addictive, man.
Yeah, so
fast growth.
So Sean Ritchie has been a longtime partner of yours in many different things. Yeah. Is that correct?
Yeah.
And so you met him pretty early in your career.
So I met Sean way before we had a career. So in 96, I came out to BYU, and he was on my floor in V Hall of Deseret Towers at BYU.
He was in your dorms.
The now torn down Deseret Towers?
That's right.
The earthquake hazard where you
looked like a turquoise prison.
Could have been flattened like a pancake.
Yeah, exactly. And the windows were bolted so they could only open this much, because it was literally like a prison, and you had everyone was up on cinder blocks.
People don't know Deseret Towers, literally any slight earthquake, it would have gone. Because that was the only tall building on campus like that.
Yeah, it was pretty bad. And I remember walking in there, and I'm like, oh, this looks just like a prison cell. Prison beds. I'm like, this is wild. But we met that year, and then we became friends, and started, doing stuff together. And then when I went on a mission to Honduras in 97 to 99, and came back, and we reconnected. And
so you were in the same floor?
Yeah, same floor.
Okay,
yep.
Got it. Okay.
And so we were just friends, and then through a bunch of circumstances, he had joined a startup that had failed, started to fail. And I'd been kind of consulting them also. It was in this in-between period. And I went to go visit him as he was packing up kind of the office to kind of shut this thing down. And I said, what about that? They had a website that I'd consulted with at this startup. The startup was kind of stupid, but they had this website that I felt like we could maybe do something. And I had just been offered a job at Park City Mountain Resort as the web marketing director. Okay. So I was like, but I was waiting to accept. And I went to go visit Sean, talk to him about it. He was packing up. And I said, what about that site? What if we just took that and built a company out of it? And Sean has said before, like, I thought you were crazy. You had an offer for a real job with like benefits and stuff. We're going to start some stupid thing.
Yeah.
There was just something that wouldn't let me. And I really wanted this job. It was like, but it just seemed like a better idea, an opportunity. And so we went and talked to some of the investors that had been in that thing, and we did a deal and started a company together.
What was that called?
Yeah, what was the
It
company?
was called Driver Careers, and it was a platform to recruit truck drivers. There was a huge shortage of truck drivers at the time. There was 130% annual turnover, and
like 130% annual turnover.
being a long haul truck driver it's a tough job. It pays really well,
But like 100% of the industry would turn over.
yeah, so they'd have to hire. If they needed 1,000 drivers, they'd have to hire 1,300.
Wow.
Because they'd lose so many.
Wow.
Because you think, oh man, this is good money. I only need 3 weeks of training. This is amazing. Then you realize you're gone to make that kind of money. You're gone all the time to be an over the road driver.
Yeah.
And so,
And it's actually a tough job. It's lonely.
It's a tough job.
You got to be really careful about falling asleep at the wheel, right?
Yeah.
I mean, all that stuff.
But with the technology now, I still will say it's a great job for someone with very little education. You can make really good money doing it, but you got to know what you're getting into.
Yeah.
So we saw this opportunity. Nobody was doing anything online. They were, had phone numbers at truck stops and stuff. And so we had this website and we started really building this out, and we started working with all these companies and schools, training schools.
So to recruit truck drivers, they would market at truck driver pit stops.
Yeah. And maybe billboards and things. And so we took it online and built an applicant tracking system so we could digitally do it all. And it was very cool. And it was a way of transforming some very old industrial
So
industries.
a lot of the trucking companies wanted to hire drivers started using you for recruiting and fulfillment of filling positions.
And then
did you also do the certification and training?
So we didn't do the training, but we connected them with the different training companies.
Okay, got it.
And so we would help them. And some of these companies would train. So we ended up saying, we did tens of thousands of drivers that we brought into the industry during this period. And it was a really great company. And then we expanded where we actually had outsourced recruiting, where we were even using recruiters.
The company, when I met you, you were doing this company, but it was probably an evolution from the start, but it was named something different.
Neutron.
Yeah, Neutron.
Yeah, so we ended up selling off
Neutron Interactive or?
Neutron Interactive.
Yeah.
We ended up selling off most of this trucking side a few years later. It's an interesting story, but we sold off most of it.
Was that trucking company the one that you did that deal with Swift on?
Yep.
It was just to recruit more drivers for them?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
And we were doing the majority of their stuff.
Yeah.
And so we ended up selling off most of that and keeping the pieces that we wanted. And did some contracts with we sold it to one of our customers and then kept these contracts and then expanded to, transformed. It was a big pivot. It had some of the same bones as the business, but we had sold off the main piece. And then we expanded, and that company ended up being really big, and we were on the Inc. 500 a couple of times. So that pivot was there. And the story there was I didn't really love the company. I didn't love a lot of our team. I didn't love our offices. I didn't love much about it. And I remember pulling up one day to outside our office in the parking lot, and I was sitting in my car for like 20 minutes, and I was like,
"Oh man, I hate this.
I can't do this."
Yeah.
And I say all the time, it's a really tough thing to have a terrible company, right? To have a terrible job. If you're the CEO, it's even worse because not only is it terrible, it's your fault that it sucks. I mean, who do you blame? Oh, the stupid CEO. It's your fault, man. It sucks. And I hated my own company and it was my fault. And so I remember going in that day and Sean and I sat down and we're like, what are we doing? The whole point of building your own company is to do something that you love, and whatever. And like, we don't love this. What if we just sold it? So one of our competitors who was a customer really wanted to make a play there. So we ended up selling off all those operations to him in exchange for a contract. And then we moved downtown to the Sweet Candy building, which we could not really afford, and decided and did a pivot. And it was one of the best things we ever did. But even with that pivot, it took a while for it to really catch on. But that ended up becoming a very successful company. And I spun Teem out of that company. So that was even a continuation of this. So
Neutron Interactive was that company?
Yeah, so it went from Driver Careers. We sold off Driver Careers, Driver's Agent Network, and we sold that off, and then started Neutron with the pieces that we kept. And then Teem spun out of that. It was just a skunkworks.
So it was, I was going to say, was Neutron just kind of like a special projects thing, like figure out what works?
So Neutron was we ended up being a very successful company doing very similar things just beyond just the trucking industry. It was a recruitment technology company that went beyond trucking. So we did the same kind of concept, but much wider. And then as the company got really big, but like at the time, we were up to, I think, $5 million in AR. Like it was pretty big
Yeah.
and very profitable because there was no venture capital. So you had to be profitable or you couldn't have a company. And then we were on the Inc. 500 for the second time. And we're like, it was getting big. I wasn't involved in the fun stuff anymore. And I wanted to. And Zach Holmquist was an engineer there and he was a good friend. And he was like, I think I'm going to quit because I need to make more money. I was like, and he would never work on anything he was supposed to work on, but he's a genius. So I was like, sorry, not accepted. You can't quit. And he's like, no, I'm quitting. I'm like, no. And they had 20% time to work on stuff. And he and one of my other engineers, good friend Jason Brager, had been working on some stuff with this new thing called the iPad that had come out, and they were making some apps for it. And he said, all right, here's the deal. Let's take that stuff you're working on with the iPad and we'll make a company out of it. You can be a co-founder and we'll do that and have a little side project and we'll just build cool stuff. That'll be like a skunkworks.
So that's how you kept them around. I was like, hey, we'll just let you do what you want to do, but inside our company.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because I was bored too. I wanted a reason to write off buying cool electronics and stuff too. I was like, this will be fun because I was getting bored. And it was like a fun thing. But you know how it is when you're an entrepreneur, those fun things turn into money-making opportunities. And so the very first thing that they made was what became Teem. We made a bunch of other things too.
Yeah. What did you call it before Teem?
It was Ender Labs.
Ender Labs.
It was just a labs. It was just a skunkworks to make cool stuff. And we made some very cool cutting edge stuff that was, to be honest, way cooler than Teem.
Yeah.
But that's the one that ended up getting a lot of traction. And so eventually.
Because the use case was so easy. It was like so
easy. So tell us about Teem more.
Yeah.
And is this, so this was moving on from Neutron to Interactive then?
It was simultaneous at first, actually.
Okay. Got it.
So I was running both.
And where did Entice Labs come into play? And the timing of everything?
Because I know that's where you guys kind of met too.
Yeah. And it's super confusing because we had Ender Labs and then we bought Entice Labs, which it was crazy. But so it was around the same time we built this Ender Labs and it was kind of a skunkworks. And then there was another company called Entice Labs and they were a partner of ours at Neutron.
Yeah.
So we'd been doing business with them and they were a good partner. They were doing some very cool things. Company wasn't great, but it was a phenomenal team.
Yeah.
So Ryan Caldwell had been the CEO.
Ryan Caldwell, CEO. Yeah.
Yeah. And I'll tell you
and for those that don't know, Ryan Caldwell, he's CEO of one of the unicorns in Utah, MX now.
One of the best tech companies that Utah's ever seen.
And,
he's
a hard driving, successful CEO.
Yeah. No, he's incredible. And so, so what happened was that company started to fail, as startups do, by the way. That's what happens.
Yeah.
Yeah. By the way, part of that story in my career, just to interject here, and the failure is it was 30 days after you acquired that I learned about the lean startup process, and I back tested my career. Okay, because I was the biggest investor in Entice Labs, and so I go, knowing lean startup, we would have done so many things different at Entice Labs. It was this is a premature scaling
case study.
We're going to say, let's see how we can prematurely scale with abandon.
But the thing is, we learned a lot from it. So they were a partner of ours, and we needed them to kind of
keep going,
those operations.
Yeah.
And so when
you got it for nickel on the dollar, right? Whatever.
Nothing. And which was amazing. So it ended up being a great deal. So what happened was somebody called and said, hey, the partner manager said, hey, Entice is going down. Maybe we should do something. And I said, that's great. So I called a banker friend of mine, Mike Firmage, with Horizon. He had just started Horizon. It was the first deal they had done. And I said, I want you to help me get this deal done. And so John had kind of stepped in as interim kind of CEO just to help figure it out. He was the biggest investor. And there was not that many people left. There's only a couple people left, skeleton crew, but I needed it to
stay together.
Stay just enough together that we could do this. And so I met John, we engaged on this thing and we worked out a deal, and it ended up being, I think whether it was financially great for Entice, but what it was is it took some of the dream of what Entice was and allowed it to keep going.
Right.
And for us, it was really important. And it ended up being a great deal financially for us also, but much more so than the financial deal was the relationships, including my relationship with John, which is why I know you.
Yeah, exactly.
And this was 2010.
Yeah.
So
about
16 years ago, right? Almost.
Yep.
And, I look back at this. Caldwell is now one of the most prominent, most successful CEOs. And by the way, this was a big failure, and he is now one of the most successful CEOs. So when you're so fretting about it's the end of the world, it's not the end of the world.
Yeah, he went from there and was able to buy Money Desktop for $300,000.
Yep.
And he turned Money Desktop into MX.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then Cade Kruger, who was a sales guy there, is my co-founder at Voze. This was 15 years after.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And actually, Dallin Regier, who was one of the engineers, he ended up, he came to work for us for a while, and then he left to go co-found Artemis Health with Grant Gordon, who was also at Entice, which was they had a great exit also. And Kate had actually worked with them there. Matt West, who's one of the best sales guys I've ever known. He went over with Ryan at MX, and now I think he just became CRO over there.
And see, Entice Labs, the real sin was premature scaling, which is the enemy of lean startup. And what it was we raised in total about $3.3 million. And but it was just, it was trying to be a Silicon Valley unicorn type environment. And then you're in 2010-ish in the middle of the recession, right? But it was a good kernel of an idea, but we just didn't get product market fit soon enough for how much money we were spending.
But you guys utilized it apparently enough to buy it
in a slightly different way. So we were using a very small subsection of it that we needed. And so it worked out. And partly what we got was, to be honest, we got some good receivables. We got some good clients. They had it was incredible. This was a small company in Utah, and they were working with like Adidas Global.
Do you know Adidas called me up personally? Adidas called me up. Adidas was their biggest client. And Adidas called me and goes, we love this. Please don't shut this down. And I go, I'm sorry, you're one of the few that feels that way.
So really they just burned too much cash too quickly, honestly.
Oh my God.
Because they had a great product.
I tell funny stories about it because, man, we had the best kitchen with the best food. We had 3 types of cereal. We had big poster printers. We had all color. We had floor to ceiling glass encased conference rooms.
And I'd never seen anything like this before. There weren't a lot of tech companies in Utah at the time. Right?
Wait, so you walked over from your company over to Entice Labs, like, wow, this thing is sick.
Yeah.
Do you remember the murals on the walls?
This is amazing. And the team that Ryan had put together was, look where they are now. The roster there was incredible.
Do you know where the CTO ended up?
No.
Do you know the story?
I don't think so.
Okay, so.
I do. Was it Probasco?
Yeah, Ryan Probasco.
So
do you know?
He came and worked for us for a while, and then he ended up being like the number 5 guy at Pinterest.
I know.
And then he took one of my other guys over to Pinterest after who left Facebook.
Can I tell you one of the funny stories is he told me about this. He didn't know what to do for a couple months. He was trying to figure out. He was helping you a little bit. And then he starts answering questions on Quora. And he's answering this guy's questions, and the guy contacts him and says, "Those are the best answers anybody's ever given me on Quora. Would you be interested in joining our startup?" And he goes, "Well, I don't know." And then he says, "Well, why don't you come out here, Silicon Valley, and we'll meet or talk?" And he goes, "But we can't pay your way. You got to pay your own airfare." So he buys a ticket, goes up there, goes to a dingy, rundown apartment building. This is no joke. Knocks on the apartment door, and it's the kind where the floor plates are dirty, and just a 1-bedroom apartment. Goes in, there's like 3 bean bags and a desk in there, and there's like 4 guys, and then they talk for 6 straight hours, and they hire him, and that was the startup of Pinterest.
Look, Ryan Probasco, the guy's kind of a genius. He's one of those guys.
He was
just super. By the way, you know what he also did? He was working for us when he first left Neutron. He was doing that a little bit after Entice. He went over with Carl at Lucid. And helped Carl get Lucid.
You know how we got him at Entice Labs? He was working for Novell. He's one of the young hotshots. They were trying to. Novell was obviously in maintenance mode, but he was a young guy compared to everybody else there. But we were in a building that Novell had turned into a place where startups could have a little place, right?
Yeah.
And so he just was walking the halls one day. What is this place over here? Oh, there's startups. And he went into each place. He poked his head in our door and he goes, "What do you guys do here?" And that's how we met him.
So again, when we talk about look where these people ended up.
Yeah.
It was an amazing team. And honestly,
he got a good he did really well.
He did very well. But I look at this and you think, it's a story. You can look at it as a story that it was a failed company. The honest truth is most startups fail.
Yeah.
The difference that I saw with this one was, and I think Caldwell would say the same thing. What did you learn? How to put together an amazing team. He's one of the best fundraisers.
Yeah.
Still, he's one of the best fundraisers ever.
Yeah.
I remember when we were acquiring this company and we're looking at the cap table because we have to go through and get approval from all these people. My mind was blown.
Of who he was able to
name. How in the world are you? What?
Yeah.
And by the way, this was before there was no venture here. So this was big name people and funds. How do you even find these freaking people?
Even a public company made an investment in the company.
I know, because I had to fight with them to get this deal through.
That ended up actually being a little bit of a Trojan horse, the public company. That's one tip for everybody is be very careful who you take in as an investor and put on your board. If you're not, because the public company came on and they actually, they were a little bit of an issue, but anyway.
But it ended up working out. And what I learned was, I was the first time I'd really seen, that up close, a company who had really raised venture. We'd never raised any venture capital. I didn't
Yeah.
know what that even was really. And I saw this cap table and I thought, this is a small company in Utah. How in the world did he even meet these people? And he got them to give, you can just get these people to give you money?
Yeah.
This is insane. This is wild. And so, you know, you can look at it as a failed company. I think it was a really great learning experience. And the people that came out of it, there's some very, very smart people.
And personally, I'm just saying, I really love meeting you and Sean because you guys had also, you know, it's kind of like you said, you didn't know a lot of this stuff, but you two really carried yourselves well. And you were super confident, not arrogant, confident. And the confidence really was just, you know, pouring out your pores. And it was really fun because I think one of the best things for me was I took a financial hit, but at the same time, I got to know you guys.
Yeah. So. And what I also think about is, you know, we were confident. We had one of the most successful, I would say, startups in Utah at the time. There weren't a lot of companies, tech companies in Utah. We were one of the only ones. And we've been on the Inc. 500 now a couple of times. What I loved about it was in looking at this Entice deal, I was learning how much we didn't know.
Yeah.
We started to think, oh, we know what we're doing. We're kind of, at this point, we're pretty smart.
Kind of sitting on your high horse. Like there's not much for us to learn. And then you go over here and like, wow, they're doing things a whole different way.
I've never seen any of this stuff.
Yeah.
I have no idea how they did that. And then, you know, Mike Furmich, who I mentioned from Horizon, who's my friend, who's a banker who came in and did this deal. And I got to watch him up close of how he had organized and orchestrated this deal and the details of it. The guy's, he's also kind of a genius. If you don't know Mike Furmich, he's a brilliant guy. And it was for the first time in a few years where I felt like I'm learning again.
Yeah.
Now
and Ryan Caldwell went through that same metamorphosis because I mentored him when he was a student at BYU, and he had a company while a student at that he actually built and sold for like 2.4 million. And then I got him to come over and be in Entice Labs, and he learned so much of that process, and then he parlayed that into MX, and his skill set. You know, it's the same thing. You learn new things, but what's interesting too, and this is a good tip for everybody, being a small business person, or you know, without understanding the whole venture ecosystem, when you start discovering the venture ecosystem, a whole new world opens up to you.
100%.
And I went through the first 12 years of my career, I had no idea. I thought my little company was my entire universe and that I would do it till I died, you know, that feeling. And then all of a sudden you discover actually these companies are an asset that you have the pleasure of owning for a while. And the end result is the way that you create wealth is you have to sell this asset.
Yep.
Listen, I have an approach that I've talked about this before, maybe on podcasts, but you know, our company was doing very well. We'd been on the Inc. 500 now a few times. You start not 5,000, 500. And you know, there weren't a lot in Utah doing that. It was like us and Entrada.
Yeah.
Right.
That's it.
About it.
Yeah.
So, you know, this was pretty cool. And this is while the whole world economy was sucking.
Yeah.
Like you start feeling really good. But what you start realizing is how much you don't know. Mm-hmm. And I think with the venture world, I'd never talked to these people. And so anyway, we had a private equity firm, a bunch of them trying to invest or buy this company. Mm-hmm. And they're used to dealing with kind of older folks and they're buying their family business. And so I could hear the way they were trying to pitch me was along those lines. And they're like, listen, we know that this is your baby and, you know, we're going to take care of it. And I was like, stop. I have actual babies and they are not for sale. This is a for-profit company, right?
That is definitely for sale.
Definitely sell it. And so let's just be clear. It's an interesting story, but I've talked about this a lot through my career because it's tempting when you're an entrepreneur to really start to feel like it is your baby and it's a family and this stuff. But when you have actual babies, how much would you sell your baby for?
Yeah, you wouldn't.
Nothing. So when I hear a founder who's like, this is my baby, I'm like, oh, I'm out then.
Yeah.
Because are you planning to never sell this company?
Yeah.
Because if that's the case, then I have no interest in investing in it.
Yeah.
I'm not investing. I'm not a patron of the startup arts or something. No, this is an investment. This is right. And so I think that idea, it sounds nice. Oh, it's really my baby. I care about it. It's not your baby. Yeah. It's a for-profit thing. And if it isn't, then you shouldn't be raising money from investors who are looking to get a return. So I think it's come back many times in my career where I'll hear some entrepreneur. I'm like,
You got to think that
Another
way.
thing that goes along with that is it's also a tendency of an entrepreneur that's going down along those lines that they want to build a fiefdom around themselves and jobs. Like they want them to be so important in their own company that the company could not survive without them, which is the total antithesis of what they should be doing, right? They should be making it so non-founders can do all the workflows and operations and that they can sell the company, because most founders are not going to go along with the company when it's sold, right?
it's the entrepreneur's dilemma, right? Of to be rich or to be king.
Yeah.
And I tell people all the time, the only correct answer to that is to be rich. If your goal is to be king, I'm not interested.
Yeah.
What, be the king of what? A stupid, sucky company?
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
it's to be rich. And
Yeah.
sometimes what that means is, most of the time, you're going to sell it. And you know what happens when you sell it? You're not going to be the CEO anymore.
Yeah.
That's not a bad thing. That's a good thing. If your goal is to be the king,
Yeah.
you got the wrong goal and you make very poor decisions.
That's not investable.
It's not investable. And if the company is your baby, that's not investable.
Right.
Yeah.
Because you're not going to sell it. And I've seen that happen, by the way, to several companies.
How did this whole approach and eye-opening impact what you did with Teem and with like moving forward from,
And tell us more about the business model of Teem and all that. Yeah.
So Teem, like I said, it started off as a skunkworks. And the first thing that we made in that skunkworks was what became Teem. And Sean Ritchie was my partner and co-founder for years, like I said. And,
in all of it. Yeah.
Yeah. And he was my CFO and I was the CEO. And that was partly just because he had taken an accounting class and I hadn't. So that was it. He wasn't any good as a CFO. He wasn't any better than I was.
Almost
as a CEO.
just choked on my Coke for those who can't see me.
That's how it was back then, And but we'd been best friends for a long time. When it started taking off and started really getting some traction, we realized I think this isn't just a thing for Dan to screw around and have fun. And it started turning into a real company. I realized I couldn't be the CEO of both of these companies anymore at the same time. That wasn't really going to work. And there was a real opportunity. So Sean and I talked and said, let's go find a CEO.
To replace you or to be over
to replace
Teem?
me at Teem.
Oh.
Because I was over both. We need a full-time person at Teem now. So Sean was much better at networking than I was. I was kind of introverted and I hated networking at the time.
Really?
Oh man,
That's not how I would define you today.
I know it's the opposite, but at the time, to go to a dinner about business, I would literally rather die than are you kidding? A networking event? No, just kill me. Very different from where I am now. But Sean was very good at it, and so I tasked Sean with go out and find a CEO. And we interviewed a lot of people. Scott Paul, who had been a partner of ours at the time. And I tried to convince Scott, but he was doing some app and not been a great option, but that's how I met Scott. It was part of this process and a bunch of others. And we couldn't find anybody who would do it. And it was kind of like Dick Cheney in the vice presidential search. Like, well, you can't find anyone, then you got to do it. Mm-hmm. And it was getting to a point where it was time probably to bring in a real CFO, right? Sean would have said he's not a real CFO anyway. He didn't even want to be. He just had to be. And so I said, why don't you do it? And he was like, well, I don't really know the tech side. I'm like, it's a company of nerds. Like everyone else in the company was all engineers. You don't need to know that. What we need is somebody to go raise money. Let's do venture capital like we read about in what they did at Entice.
Yeah.
Remember I don't know what it is, but let's figure it out. And Sean was very good at building those relationships. And so I convinced him to just take it over. And there wasn't a ton to take over. We had some products. We had a thing. We did the very first pitch with Warnock, who gave us $100,000, maybe $75,000. And then I was like, okay. And then I stepped away and made Sean the CEO.
Man, Mercado was doing that small of a
No, it wasn't
really
Mercado. It wasn't their family, or did
it was this thing called Gazelle. It was Mercado adjacent, but it was in their offices.
Yeah,
so
yeah,
we felt like it was kind of Mercado.
Yeah.
We felt cool. And then Sean, he did. I was actually, and I love Sean, but I was shocked at how well he did this. I mean, he got Google Ventures, which at the time was monstrous. Google Ventures? They never even heard of Utah. He got Google Ventures to invest in this stupid company. It wasn't a huge check, but Google Ventures? And then he brought Mark Gornberg from Zeta Ventures, who is a monster in Silicon Valley. I mean, the guy's he's incredible. He had this fund of luminaries and stuff. So he did a great job raising money and raising the awareness. And so I moved into more of like a chairman role, just on the board. And I wasn't active really in it anymore, other than just, with Sean and for board meetings. And so Sean really ended up, from that point on, after it was like 2 years in, Sean took it over. And Sean's the one who really built that company.
And one more time, the business model, what does Teem do?
The business model, what we did is we basically had this new thing called an iPad. And we thought it's a beautiful display. We'd been going around to different companies and they're scrambling around trying to find a meeting room. And I'm the CEO trying to meet with some senior exec and they don't have a meeting room and they're opening doors trying to find out where they could. And Zach said, why don't we use this iPad as a display? And so basically it was showing whether there was someone in there, and it was a way to schedule conference rooms, collect the data, and know what was going on without having to just run around. It was a really big problem that was almost universal, and it looked good.
So larger companies would actually have an iPad outside the room in a wall hanging device or whatever.
Yeah, in an enclosure made by Scott.
And that's connected to the internet. So you got an underlying application that's coordinating usage of all
we use Teams at all of our schools at Dev Mountain.
It was cool.
Oh, you did?
Yeah,
I didn't know that, really?
Yeah.
I mean, most of the big Utah companies.
I think when we got acquired, we kind of let it go because our acquirer was like, no, we're not using that. We're using this thing. Yeah. So.
But at the time, no one had really had this, and also it looked really cool. So the first business model was it was free. Then we realized as we'd start getting these calls like at Twitter, then we got a call from Shell. They call in, yes, we're calling from Shell Oil. We don't know, how can you sync this with Exchange? And Zach looked at me, he's like, it can sync with Exchange? I don't. Anyone know? We didn't even know. And we're like, you mean Shell? Like
Shell oil?
Yeah. Yes, of course. Oh my gosh. You're using our stupid calendar thing? And we realized we need to actually now build a SaaS model. So we brought back one of our engineers, Jason Breger, who helped build out that piece, and it turned it into a SaaS thing before Apple had subscriptions. And then we knew who was using it. And then it started really growing and it was a real revenue model.
What year was this? So
this would have been, I think this was after Sean joined. So it would have been 2013, maybe 14.
Yeah.
And one of the first things we did was, I thought, no one's going to pay for this stupid thing. Pricing is not my expertise. I will admit I'm very bad at it. And I said, no one's going to pay for this. Fine, we'll charge $5 for a download. And the number of downloads went up. I'm like, well, that's weird. And Sean said, because the thing's losing tons of money, and we weren't used to losing money. We were a bootstrapped kind of company. We hadn't raised any money yet. And Sean was like, why don't you just double it to 10? I'm like, there's no way they're going to pay 5. And there's no way in the world they're going to pay 10 for this stupid thing. And Sean's like, just try it. So we raised it to 10 and the sales went up even more. And I was like, this is weird. So then we built this SaaS model. And what if it was like $10 a month? Like, are you nuts? We did. And sales doubled and tripled. They just kept doing it.
Was that $10 per device it was on?
Per month.
Yeah.
And because honestly, the amount of efficiency that they would gain from it was incredible. The employees all loved it. And here was the other trick. The very first monetization we did on it was you could make it look cool because it's a big, beautiful display. And you could make your own backgrounds and you could make moving backgrounds.
You could customize it.
Yeah. And so it was like a piece of art, but also functional. And it was free, but you could just pay to have these cool backgrounds made.
Yeah.
That wasn't the right model, but we did keep that all the way through. And so eventually we had big customers, Netflix and Hulu. And, Netflix, they would have the backgrounds from like Stranger Things, from their big hit shows in these full motion backgrounds behind the thing. And it would match the rooms. Airbnb, they had very cool offices in downtown San Francisco, and they were one of our bigger customers. Uber, but Airbnb, they had their conference rooms modeled after some of their most famous Airbnb properties, right? And then they'd have an event board, right? A team board outside that was designed to match the flow of that room.
See Omniture back in the day used to name their conference rooms after Adam Sandler movies.
Same kind of thing.
Did you ever hear of that? They did that. Literally every conference room in there was an Adam Sandler movie.
Ours were after mountain peaks.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
We did it was like Star Wars stuff.
So and your device then could thematically have a video or a photo or graphic that represented that.
So needless to say, you guys took off.
It took off. And not only was it really functional and helping to keep things organized, whatever, and avoid all this confusion and nonsense. The honest truth is most of our first big customers were startups.
Uh-huh.
And one of the things that startups care about, especially at the time, was looking cool.
Yep.
Sorry, that's the truth. And so, it's because it's so functional. Yeah. But if we're being honest, it's probably because it looked really cool.
Yeah.
And nobody else had that, and it looked cool, and then they could style it.
Yeah.
And they wanted to look cool.
Yeah.
And so
how did WeWork come into play then? Were they a huge client at the beginning?
They weren't even a customer at all, really. GE Ventures had invested in the Series B, and they
Well,
customers.
we just skipped a lot of time. How much venture capital did you raise on Teem?
I think the total was a little over 20 million.
Through 3 or 4 rounds?
Yeah, there was a pre-seedish and all that early stuff was kind of like rolling, whatever, right? And then Sean had never done it either. We didn't know what we were doing. So it was, who can we get? We announced it in certain ways, but it was really very fluid for that first little bit. There was a seed, an A and a B. And so GE Ventures. I mean, I'm telling you, Sean was a monster. He got Google Ventures, and I'd be like, how do you even find these people? I mean, I'd never, I had no idea. And most of my connections in VC started really with these relationships that Sean built there. So I owe a lot of that just directly to Sean. He figured it out for us and how to do it. So he got Nokia was the lead on the B, Nokia Venture Partners. I'm like, what are you talking about? What do you even? It was shocking. So GE was using it in their headquarters, and they were building a new headquarters in Boston. And WeWork was doing the build out for them. And they said to WeWork, from my understanding, like, hey, we need to have space, obviously, for Teem because we use Teem. And WeWork's like, what is that? Oh, Teem, it's what we use to manage the rooms. And they're like, we need to know more about this. And they realized it's a tech company. And, there was this whole thing with WeWork. They were really a real estate company.
They were trying to be tech.
Yeah, they want to be tech. And they're like, well, maybe if we buy a tech company, people will think we're a tech company, right?
Yeah.
I think they saw this, and it was very well aligned with what they did. It was managing rooms. I mean, this was a perfect thing. And so the approach came, I think, initially probably through GE Ventures. I don't remember exactly. And the approach was we want to buy the company. I mean, it wasn't really beating around the bush. It was that. And Sean, at the time, WeWork was hot stuff. They were the fastest growing company in the history of the world.
Yeah.
And they were all over the place. And so, at the time it was pretty, and I knew that it was time to do a sale. The market was, Zoom.
You were peaking.
Out. Yeah. Zoom had tried to make a play, but we had just raised this piece. It was just too big for Zoom at the time. And then Zoom just made Zoom Rooms, which was a competitor, and it was free.
Mm-hmm.
So I knew the writing was kind of on the wall, and we had this great thing with it, great penetration, great customer list that would be great for WeWork. So, so I was very enthusiastic about doing this deal. The first approach was mostly stock deal, right? And we talked about it and brought it to the board. And to my credit, I was one of the ones saying, I don't want any of that stock. So I would like cash on this deal. It's a problematic company. I don't want to trade illiquid stock for illiquid stock that's wildly overvalued. That doesn't do me any good.
Yeah, that would be too wild for you.
And we have no control over it at that point. So we're just giving it up in exchange for no. And
you'd have to ride that out. Yeah.
Yeah. And Adam wanted to value it at like $90 quadrillion or something. I'm like, no. And so I was pushing this, and the board agreed also. We ended up doing all cash, and we were one of the only ones. They were doing acquisitions. We were one of the only ones that was all cash, and it was much less. I think the initial one was like over 200 million that they were offering in stock and a little.
Yeah.
And I know some people who sold.
Was that released? Was that a public figure? The sale of Teem, the acquisition of Teem?
Yeah. So we ended up. It was over 100 million.
Wow.
But it was all cash.
Yeah.
And that at the time I thought that was really smart. 6 months later, it looked ingenious, like the smartest guys in the entire world.
Did they crash at that time?
They crashed within a year.
Yeah.
But the S1 came out within 8 months, and the S1 when they filed it, everyone was like, "What in the world?" There was some very crazy stuff in there.
Yeah.
And then we looked very smart.
Yeah. Just have to watch the documentary or the dramatization of it. Those were quite things.
When we sold too, we negotiated for all cash deal. They wanted to do half stock, half cash, and we negotiated for all cash. And looking backwards, their stock when they went on this acquisition spree actually tripled in price. So it would have been nice for me, but at the time I thought it was smart too. It was like, oh, we're just going to take cash.
You never know, but yeah.
And the thing is, that can happen. I don't say it's always all cash, but when the company is raising, and they're known for raising at outrageous valuations, that's the valuation on that stock.
Yeah.
So it would have had to,
Yeah. Well, WeWork though is a real anomaly in so many ways. Yeah.
So it was cool. And honestly, there weren't a lot of big deal acquisitions going on in Utah. This was before Qualtrics had happened. And so, a 9-figure deal was huge.
Yeah. It was.
And Sean, it was a very stressful thing to do, but Sean did an amazing job on that deal. And we were on top of the world.
Yeah.
It was maybe not even a year later, and then Ryan sold Qualtrics for $8 billion, and we're like, oh, well, it's like a rounding error at that point. Right? But it was a big deal at the time. When
No, for
that
sure.
deal.
No.
And we think of this tech scene in Utah now with these unicorns and all this stuff. None of those were around in 2018.
No,
Most
no.
of them were, and they definitely weren't unicorns.
No.
Yeah.
So that was a really big deal, and I was very proud of it. I still am very proud of it.
So, so you sell Teem, and then what?
So at this point, I'd been a CEO for 15 years, and I was still at the other company. So we ended up selling most of that company, and I had stepped away from operating then. And 6 months after the Teem deal, Sean had to go with the deal because he was there. I didn't.
What was the month and year of that deal?
I was 2018 October.
Okay, got it. Okay.
So Sean had to stay there as part of the contractual deal, but he was sort of unceremoniously fired like 6 months later, which turned out to be kind of a godsend, right? Because he didn't have to go down with that idiot ship.
Yeah.
But at the time, he was kind of bummed. And I remember when I found out, I was excited, and I was like, oh, thank goodness. Good. Because we had started doing some investing.
Yeah.
We had a little fund, and I was like, now we can just do our fund, and you don't have to work for these idiots anymore. He was kind of bummed at first, but then we started digging in and started doing investing. We had a little fund called Persistent Ventures that we put together, and we started working on doing investing, and it was kind of fun.
Yeah.
For a while. And then COVID happened. And I like to say, sitting on your butt at home was cool until COVID, and then everyone was doing it. It wasn't cool anymore. Now started getting the itch again, to start operating. And but we made a lot of investments and became LPs in a ton more funds and did a bunch of direct stuff. And it was really fun building a network.
Yeah.
Again, right? During this time. But, startups are addictive. And I needed that little break, and we traveled the world with my kids. Took them all over the place during that time, and it was a very important period.
Yeah.
But it was time for me to start building again. Investing is fun. It's not as gratifying, especially when you're an LP. It's like it's nice. Even if you have a good return, but I didn't do anything.
Yeah, and it's a long,
you're
slow
at arm's length.
I wasn't even.
It's a long, slow process too. I mean, it's not the excitement of Sunday night, something big's going to happen Monday morning type of thing.
And if you're an LP, I didn't even do anything. It wasn't even like, well, I didn't do it, but I picked the company. I didn't even pick the company. I picked a fund that then picked the company that even when there's some alignment, it just wasn't as gratifying. And honestly, I'm pretty good at it, and I like doing it.
And now you had all these connections and relationships that you had built over the previous 10, 15 years. And so why not utilize it?
Yeah. So then we started looking around different opportunities. And, I said my first real successful company in the trucking industry. So I was familiar with industry, and my dad was in the recycling industry. So I realized there was a lot of really opportunity in the industrial sector. And it was largely ignored by tech. Most of the tech scene is tech bros making stuff for tech bros, to be honest. And that's fine. I'm a tech bro, right? But why are you making stuff for startups, broke startups that are money-losing venture-backed companies? Why are you making tools for those companies? You got these massive multi-billion-dollar industrial companies, and nobody's making good tools for them. And so we decided to build something that would work for them. And it's great when I was first pitching this to some of my VC friends, and I had this conversation, it was repeated over, and I'm like, wow, industrial, such an interesting niche. And I'm like, yeah, I mean, it is by far the largest sector of the global economy, but the fact that you think it's a niche is
interesting.
Great, because you keep telling everyone that, right? Well, we're cleaning up on these massive businesses. The truth is, people think that these industrial companies don't care about tech. And what I say all the time is, I think it's more that tech doesn't care about them. Tech doesn't even know they exist half the time.
Right.
I got to build something for this latest startup. You're making software for broke startups?
Yeah, it's just kind of boring. The older industries, the antiquated industries, it's like, oh, I don't want to tackle that.
I think it's boring, but the truth is, look, these companies are the backbone of the economy. Our customers are, not only is it not really boring, they're some of my favorite people. I mean, I've been in industries where the customers are just obnoxious turds. Our customers, the freaking best customers in the world.
So
and they're
that's
building real amazing companies.
That's what Voze is tackling right now?
So we work with industrial companies, and we help optimize the efficiency of their revenue teams, of their sales teams. They have field reps out in the field who are doing, between maybe $3 and $20 million a year in quota. It's incredible. Some of the best sales guys in the world. But they're in the field. They're not sitting in front of a computer. They're not going to use a CRM or something to type stuff in. It's never going to happen. And so we make it very easy for them to get information from the field into the company. They can just use their voice. We have a super advanced AI platform called Orpheus. We pull all this information in, we can parse it, place it where it needs to go. We can track all the trends and data so you know exactly what's going on. And because we're able to do it, we capture all this nuance. What I mean by that is, if you look at how a lot of these deals get done, it's very different from a stage 1, stage 2, stage 3, closed won software deal. A lot of these, they got the deal 6 years ago.
Yeah.
And now it's, how do I go from doing $1 million a year with this customer to doing, 3? Some of these companies that we work with have 30,000 SKUs. No human's going to just know those. So we make it very easy, and it's designed to be used. One of the biggest problems that happens with enterprise software, especially enterprise sales software, is you get a 25% adoption rate. Doesn't matter how good it is if no one uses it. It's like a diet.
So
The best diet in the world. If no one sticks to it, it's not going to do anything.
So it's sales enablement, but also like a repository of information to assist the in-field sales reps.
That's right.
Yeah.
And so the companies know what's going on in the field, and the reps are able to track this information.
Cool.
And it's very much a relationship-based sales process in these industries.
Did you tap into, so that 12 million that you raised, did you tap into those relationships that you built with Teem and what Sean had done before?
100%.
Is Sean on with Voze, or is he not
but
involved with Voze?
He's an advisor.
Yeah.
Right. But we have our fun together. We
Yeah.
own all
You're
kinds
still
of
doing
stuff.
it on this
We
stuff
have all
together.
kinds of stuff together still. But within Voze, we're not. But absolutely. And by then we're in LPs and all these funds, and I know them all. And that's when it started to really shift with me, where I started to realize, and I thought fundraising sounds so obnoxious. I hadn't really done much of it. I was adjacent to it. And then I decided, this is the best job ever. Fundraising, I kind of love it. Here's what it involves. You go out to lunch with somebody, and they're usually paying, and you brag about your company for like an hour. Worst case scenario is some people are paying for your lunch. Best case scenario is they give you millions of dollars. Like, that's the job. Brag about your, like, this is incredible. This is the best job ever. What was I worried about?
Yeah.
And you're going to events and networking. And what I realize is I really do love building those relationships. It's invigorating. It's fun. And so you have a week like this where you've got, Slope Summit, you've got Utah Tech Week, and all of these events. None of this stuff existed when I was first starting.
Mm-hmm.
It was so lonely.
Mm-hmm.
And so you just feel isolated. There's none. And now it's amazing. So part of the reason I go to so many things is because I'm still so excited that there even is a scene to be in. So
what month and year did you start this company?
So this was really was like January of 4 years ago. So was it
2022?
3, 4, 5, 6. So 2023? 3 to 4, 2.
2022. So it's been 4 years almost.
3 to 4, 4 to 5.
Well, 2022 was the kind of a interesting time. That's when the interest rates started going up, right? Is that when you started?
Yeah. So it was 4 years ago, just barely.
Wow.
And
so you were coming off of the 2021 high, and you started this company just as we went through 11 rate increases from the Fed in 1 year.
Honestly, perfect timing. You kind of want to be building in those markets.
Yeah, our philosophy as investors and as entrepreneurs is you start companies in the tougher down cycle, not in the, like 2021 is not a great time to be investing or to be starting something.
Yeah.
But 2022, 2023, 2024 was excellent time.
And for us, so one of the first things is I started using this networking, building in. So I reached out to McKay Dunn, who's a good friend, and he had just started Tandem with Alex and Jimmer.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so I started hosting stuff in our office and doing this stuff. And, McKay's a good friend, and he was like, what is this? Is this your new company?
Yeah.
I want to invest. I didn't even know what it was at first. I'm like, great. Because he knows this. I had a great team, and he ended up joining the board and helped me restructure the whole board and help put this whole thing together. So I started we had nothing on the cap table. We had nobody good. So we started bringing in really cool people, and Jeff Birmingham joined the cap table, and Dan Lee and these guys. So we started putting together a cap table that was cool. Clark Miyasaki's on, like,
Oh, nice.
Right. And like this small startup. And I was like, this is amazing.
Yeah.
I get all this credibility, and they're giving us money. This is the best job ever. I love this. So we really ended up doing it. And then we ended up doing a seed round with Album. Who I've known those guys forever. I'm going to with them. And with Pipeline Ventures also was in that one, got a little bit. With Joel and Tanner. And then for the Series A, it was Origin, who's from Chicago, but Brent Hill is here.
Yeah.
He's a very good friend of mine. He was on our board at Teem.
I know they have like a satellite office here in Salt Lake. Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, Brent is one of my favorite people in the world.
Mm-hmm.
And I love Origin. And then Mercury Ventures from Houston. Also great. and it just
Came together.
and and so and now we're just cranking.
That's
and
awesome.
It's when I first got back in, I was a little worried. Am I going to like it? Am I going to have fun building again? Am I too old for this or whatever? And I told someone last night at this event downtown, it's 3 to 5x more fun than I expected. And I thought it would be good, or I wouldn't have done it. It's so much more fun. I think just having done it, I know what I'm doing now.
Yeah.
I've got the network, and my team it's outrageous.
Yeah.
I mean, I even look around, I'll be in my team meeting, and I'm looking around, I'm like,
You got some good people.
is this real life?
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is insane.
Well, Dan, one thing that we admire about you is obviously your work in the field, in entrepreneurship. And for those who don't know, you experienced a hard thing last year. We talked about it pre-podcast, and feel free to share what you want to or don't.
Yeah.
But I did want to address it because it was such an impactful story that I think impacted thousands and thousands, if not tens, if not hundreds of thousands of people. And for those who don't know, Dan lost his wife last year in a tragic accident. And I don't know what you want to share or what you don't, or what that time has even taught you, maybe removing the entrepreneurship and business aspect out of the conversation for a second, of who Dan is today and where you're at now.
Yeah, I'm glad to talk about it. And one of the things I've done with this is I've tried to be really open about it, about the grief process.
And I think people saw that online. I think people saw that in the news. I think people saw that in social circles, at least here, because we know you pretty well, and we saw and we're in conversations about it. I think that's what everybody respects about how you tackled that whole thing.
I think in the startup world, it's changing, but there was this sense of, you ask someone how you're doing it, and the answer is either you're crushing it or killing it or something. That's the only acceptable answers.
Yeah.
And never, this is really hard and I hate it. You couldn't really say that for a long time. It's starting to change. And so I like to be pretty open about it, because there's struggles, and whether it's part of entrepreneurship or the life, living your life as an entrepreneur, even.
It's just human. Yeah.
It's being human. And so my wife and I were going to a wedding in Mexico, and it was a horrifying accident. Our driver was killed, and Elise was burned very badly. And we ended up life flighting her back all the way to Utah.
From Mexico.
And but it was horrible. And she died a few days later.
Oh, man.
And I mentioned that when I was retired for those few years, I took that break. We took our girls and traveled around the world. And it's one of the best decisions we ever made. And while we did that, my wife started an Instagram, a blog about traveling with kids to help people feel okay, because she had a lot of anxiety about it. She was very nervous. And so we started doing it. And she wrote this thing to start it to help other families realize you can travel with kids. And one of the key messages of it that really resonates now is, don't wait.
Yeah.
There's this tendency of like, I'll do this later. I'm busy now, but I'll do it later. I'll do it when the kids are older. I'll do it at some other time. It doesn't get easier when the kids are older. It gets harder. They're really busy. And also, life is short. And like I've been saying lately, and sometimes it's really effing short.
Mm-hmm. Create the memories now.
And your wife's parents, your parents-in-law, they're friends of ours, and of course, he passed away. But Kim and I worked together at BYU. Your father-in-law, and so I'm a little choked up here too myself, but he's such a great man and the great couple. And we'd go to dinner with them because we had friends in common and all that. And it was always so cool how, I met you and then you end up being married to their daughter and stuff like that. And so
it's an amazing family. And what I think Elise was an entrepreneur also.
Yeah.
The last few years of life, she started a publishing company with her good friend Tiffany Rosenhan. And she'd worked in publishing before, but what she really wanted to do was this, and to be an author and to be a publisher. And I was an entrepreneur, and that was my job. And she was the mom, and she would do some stuff. And she and Tiffany started this company, and they ended up doing amazing stuff. They did Kristen Anderson's cookbook together. They did with the Fox Group. They did a book. They did one that she wrote that was a children's book that came out. They did some amazing stuff in this period. And I think one of the messages again is, what are you waiting for?
Yeah.
It always feels like you got all the time in the world, and it's not true.
Yeah.
And so, it's the saddest thing, but the honest truth is we lived so much in the time we had together,
Yeah.
more than most people do in their entire lives.
Mm-hmm.
And I think remembering business is so fun. Startups are amazing. Achieving all these things is great. Don't lose sight of what's really important. What's the point of this? The point of it isn't the business. The point of it isn't that. The point of even the money, it's to use it to enrich your life.
Right, right. And I say that to entrepreneurs all the time. And I loved your point about how there's this misconception in entrepreneurship that founders have to power through. You have to be crushing it. You have to be killing it, right? So I think that's a very powerful message that, hey, sometimes things don't go right, but it's okay. Because you even said that at the very, very beginning of the podcast too, is like, hey, don't look at your failures as failures. Look at your failures as lessons.
And I want to say to you, just kind of looking in from the outside a little bit, just as a dad and a grandfather, I've followed you and you've been very open in sharing on your social media, your experience you've been through. And you just really touched me with, like, within a couple weeks of this weird, tragic accident and all that, your focus on your children and how you were there for them and how you kept the spirit of your family alive is what came out to me. I don't know. I just want to compliment you for doing that, but also for sharing it with others, because I think it was really taught a lot of people how to.
Let's definitely turn.
How a lot of people dealt. Just how you taught a lot of people how to deal. You mentioned grief a second ago, because dealing with grief is a big part of life, and it can really mess you up. Yep. And you've been an example of how to handle it and do it in a way that I think,
strong leadership to embrace trials and hardships. Yeah.
And I think that, because you went through, and especially knowing the love you two had, and you could see that between you and all that, just you taught the worst of the worst happened, but you didn't let it keep you down. You in the old words saying, you got right up on the bicycle and kept riding.
Yeah.
And I can tell you did it a lot because of your kids, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. But you did an excellent job. That's all I want to say.
I appreciate
how is the Caffee family today? How are your kids? How's the family circle? How's everything going?
I have partly because Elise was on social media. We have a big following.
Yeah.
And a lot
and
of
your wife did too.
My wife did. She's the one who built this whole thing. So she's the one with the.
And that's she impacted my daughter. My daughter, followed her. Right.
She was she was amazing.
Yeah.
And so because of that, the outpouring of support, and everyone loved her. People like me, but they loved her.
Yeah.
And so the outpouring has been. I've never seen anything like it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
From my friends, from the community, from the startup community.
Right.
The funeral was thousands of people. It was streamed online.
Yeah.
Yep.
Tens of thousands of people.
Yeah.
And everyone has just been. I've just never seen anything like it. My family, Elise's family, just incredible. And my board, my team.
Mm-hmm.
Cade Kruger, I mentioned my co-founder at Teem. I needed to step away.
Yeah.
I needed to step away.
Yes,
I have my priorities in line.
Yep.
And I will say this, tying it in with the business piece, but most of the time, it doesn't really matter whether you have the very best people. Most of the time, it doesn't really matter that much who's on your board. Honestly, it's money.
Yeah.
It doesn't really, most of the days, it doesn't really matter. And then once in a while, it really matters.
Yeah.
And I've been very selective with my team, and I've been very selective about who I have invest in this company, because I'm in a position where I can do that, right? And most of the time, it doesn't matter. And when it came down to it, it really mattered. And I was so grateful to have people my investors and my board, people that I love and trust, who love and trust me, and having on my team people I love and trust. And Cade was able to step in and really help steady the ship during that period. A couple weeks after, Elise had, we travel as a family, and Elise had planned a trip to Egypt.
Yep.
And we didn't know if she was going to make it or not. And so we thought, we're not going to be able to do this. She's going to be in, physical rehab and other things. And she died. And I woke up the next day, and my daughter was there, and I said, what if we went on the trip that Mom planned? It was in
Still
in 2
go.
weeks.
Yeah.
And she was like, she has a whole, I wasn't involved in the planning.
Yeah.
Itinerary of everything.
Whole itinerary and all this stuff. And I said, really, where is it? Went and found it. She had used guides. We'd never really used guides on these trips. She had done this through an agency. She had guides. And she's like, listen, Mom already planned the whole thing. all you have to do is show up and do what mom says, which is what you did on the trips anyway. So this should be great.
Yeah.
And I thought, you know what, we're going to do it.
Yeah.
And we did. And it was 2 or 3 weeks after the funeral.
Yep.
And the idea partly, and this is a good lesson for the entrepreneurship too, is you're going to have huge setbacks as an entrepreneur. You're going to have setbacks in life, whether you're an entrepreneur, whatever it is. And the sooner you can get back in the saddle and get back out there and get back in it, it makes a huge difference. And so I thought, if we don't do this, are we ever going to be able to do this again without her? Because she was the driving force behind this. And we had to prove to ourselves that we could really do it. And it was a very therapeutic and a wonderful trip. And it was very sad. But you know what? Staying at home is also really sad.
Yes.
And being there, we're having new experiences. And what it showed us is we can do this.
Yep.
And I think the message that I hope people take from some of this is that, like, it's okay. Grief is going to happen. Resilience is important. When I found out that she wasn't going to make it, I took the kids and I had to tell them. And I said, you know what? We're going to be okay. And I remember thinking, I don't even know what that means. What do you mean, okay? How is anything ever going to be okay, ever? But I meant it. And the truth is, we're okay.
Mm-hmm.
It's really sad. And I have friends who've also, one of my very best friends who lost his wife years ago. It's still sad. And he's doing great. He's remarried, happy, all this stuff. Yeah. Still sad. That doesn't go away.
No, it doesn't go away.
But he's okay, and we're okay. And I think the girls are my daughters are actively involved in things. I'm back at work. We're doing great. And it's not that it's not sad. And it's not that we don't miss her every day.
Yeah.
But we're okay.
Yeah, but resilience isn't pretending,
That's right.
It's not pretending you're not hurting. It's just about pushing and going and moving and chugging along, right?
Yeah, what I see that you did with your kids from, again, the outside looking in and what you've shared publicly and just all that, because I haven't talked to you a lot about it, just that the mourning and the grief and everything, but you also taught your children, because they have a big, long life still to live, right? And they have a lot of things ahead of them, and they have an incredible parents and heritage and all that. And you taught them that, yes, this is a horrific thing and all this, but they have to also get up on their bike and keep riding. And you just you've inspired others. But I just go, you need to write a book about how
when are we going to see the Dan Caffee book
or an article or something where how does a dad, and you have how many daughters?
3 daughters.
3 daughters, right? Yep. And so that's also an interesting dynamic, right? Because mother, daughter, and I mean, how does a dad cope with that and keep that going? And what you did, it just seems like you did it picture perfect from the outside. I'm sure it was struggles and it was tough, but I don't want to ever effervescently praise you too much, but you did an A+ job. Yeah. That's what I see.
I felt like, a lot of people are watching this, and there's, especially with men in Utah and in this culture of, it's okay to be sad.
Yes.
And honestly, it's okay to talk about your feelings, because you're not the only one going through it. And I think because of some of my position in the community and other things, it gives cover to other people. Like, it's okay. Yeah. You don't have to be a tough guy. It's okay to be a real person. And so I hope that that's one of the things that people do take from it, and that it opens some conversations with people. Because look, this is a terrible tragedy, but if I'm being honest, everybody's going through something.
Yeah.
And people, well, it's not as bad as this. It's not as bad as that. What you're going through is always, whatever your struggle is, it's important to you. Yeah. And this is really bad objectively, but everyone's going through hard stuff. Right. And if they aren't, they will. My dad used to say, when he taught me how to ride a motorcycle when I was a teenager, and he had this saying that he said, like, there's 2 kinds of riders, them that's been down and them that's going down. Yeah. Nobody gets out of this life unscathed. Yeah. And so I had really very little adversity going into this. And then I got a bunch all at once.
Yes.
And the truth is, there's this tendency to think, it's not fair what happened to you.
Yeah.
And I have a different approach. Nothing in my life is fair. Yeah. It's not fair that I have this amazing company and that I have money and that I have this amazing community, that I have this team, that I have great kids, that I got 18 years with a wonderful marriage. Nobody gets that anymore. Everyone's divorced or something happened. None of that's fair. And most of the time in my life, that unfairness has broken in my favor. And then there was just this one that went way south on me.
Yeah.
Right. My goal isn't to have it be fair.
Yeah.
I understand that when things aren't fair, it's not going to always be great. But if you want the good, you're going to have some bad. That's how it is. And it's really how you deal with it. So
thank you for sharing
Dan,
all of that.
thank you so much.
I still would love now to segue into what we usually ask at the end, because that's a good thing.
Let's do one more
all
question.
Of this perspective on life
One
that
more.
you have, like we have early stage entrepreneurs. We're trying to help entrepreneurs, that are in startups and doing things. What's like one piece of advice, a golden Dan advice that if you could leave with them right now?
It's very different than what it would have been years ago.
Yes.
Which is the only thing that really matters is the people. It's the relationships that you have. At an early stage, you think you have the best idea ever. You don't. You think you have the best something. Now, what it really comes down to is the people. And that goes to your employees, your investors, the relationships that you build. They're more important than any other aspect of it. And especially at the early stage, your idea is probably not that ingenious. It's going to come down to execution, and that's down to the people. And I think this podcast is a really interesting example of that. We met 16 years ago on a deal that was completely unrelated to any of these things.
Yeah.
And look at this.
Yeah.
Right? And all the relationships that come out of these things. The people are what really matters, not just in tragedy, but also in success. So build relationships, and recognize that that's really what's going to make the difference for you most of the time.
Super wise words.
My partners that I made my freshman year in college, we built whole things together. The people coming out of these deals, I owe my career to the relationships and the friendships and the those contacts and relationships that I've made over the years. Everything stems from that.
Love it.
Right.
That's amazing. Dan,
thank you so much.
Thank you so much for coming on the podcast.
Thanks for having me. It's
great. Seriously, the stories, the strategies, the heart, the tragedy, everything. You have been through it, and I'm so excited to see what happens with Voze. I'm so excited to see where you'll be in 5-10 years. If you guys have learned anything from Dan, I know we have. Please like, share, subscribe, continue listening so we can bring awesome guests like Dan on the podcast, more people in the future. But this is all we have for episode 43. Thank you, Dan, for coming on. And we are out.